and go to the town when we flip this one in. I don't know if you've made use of it or not.
Has any update on that?
Yeah, we've got lots of it.
Yeah.
We are gonna use some of it to go around the paths. To secure the fiber paths and
Right.
stuff like that.
Wonderful.
The generator in and we'll wrap that and. We hope they got top doors.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, that's one of the benefits of us coming up here, right? Because we did that approval later on in the agenda and Councilperson Lamb, I don't know if it was facetious, you were kidding, but you said, what are you gonna do with the fence?
It's dead serious, we're all
Yeah.
reuse.
Yeah, we sat here and said, do you want it? Let's make it happen. So, you know,
We're all right now with things we could do with that fence.
yeah. So it's value in me coming up, not only talking about, you know, emissions, but, you know, just general appearance before the council that ideas flow. And we like to say yes. So it's a great thing to come up here and perhaps we'll have some ideas tonight. So we'll go to the second page on the presentation. This looks familiar, it's just a different background. This is really who we are, is Berkshire Hathaway Energy. BHE GT&S is the company I work for. BHE GT&S owns Eastern Gas Transmission and Storage. We'll see that in another slide. But we're all a part of Berkshire Hathaway Energy. And there you can see all the energy companies coast to coast, including in the bottom where it says we operate in 50 states. That's because you've probably seen Berkshire Hathaway Home Services signs in the real estate space. That company is owned by Berkshire Hathaway Energy. And so when we say we're in 50 states, it's because of the real estate business. So we'll go to the next slide. This is the pipeline group. BHE GT&S is the blue that you see on the East Coast. We operate in 10 states and we're part of one of three companies in the BHE pipeline group. And there you see the companies and the assets of pipeline across the United States. And and it gives you, you know, if you look at it up close, you know, once it gets on the town website, you'll be able to see all those nice words down at the bottom that are blurry right now. And that'll give you an indication of what assets are where. We'll go to the next one. Again, this is the pipeline group. And it's showing just a deep dive on miles of pipeline across the country in the BHA pipeline group that we are a part of, with Eastern Gas Transmission and Storage that operates in this area, and the number of states that we're located in for pipeline. And we can go to the next one. Here we are. Again, we're a subsidiary of Berkshire Hathaway Energy, and these are the states that we operate in as BHE GT&S. The pipeline system in red at the top of the map of the states where you can see Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, going into downstate, that's Eastern Gas Transmission and Storage, the operating company that is here locally in the town of Dryden. And South Carolina, that's Carolina Gas Transmission. And the blue dots are our LNG assets. Particularly in the Chesapeake Bay, you see Cove Point, that's our export facility, worldwide export on LNG through super tankers. And the other three dots, Pennsylvania, Alabama, and Florida, are smaller scale LNG, peaking for LDCs, gas distribution companies. They need that peaking standby in those cold February days when Mondays come and you need the burner temps on and the boilers on, and also for name an industry that uses LNG, trucking, you know, space industry. We are a fuel of choice for, you can think of anybody that puts a satellite into space, those companies, their customers. So that fuel either comes out of Pennsylvania or Jacksonville down in Florida. You can see the blue dot down there. We'll go to the next slide. Somehow we went to the beginning, but we'll catch up. That's the business structure, the previous slide. That's okay, we don't need it. And here again, we're the BHE GT&S assets. You see Eastern Gas Processing, Carolina Gas, we talked about Cove Point, we talked about Pivotal LNG, or those three small scale LNG plants you saw in Towanda, Pennsylvania. Trustville, Alabama, and Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you. Okay, so that's more reading for you in your downtime, and we'll go to the next slide. That's our mission of who we are and how we operate. And again, that's some reading you can do in your downtime. We'll go to the next slide. Core values of our company. These are important. These are things that we are measured by internally. I think if I say KPI, are we all familiar with KPIs and how performance indicators that we all have to be judged by in our companies and our workspaces? And so those are core principles, core values that we operate under every day in our operations. We'll go to the next slide. New York State. So we're here to talk about Dryden and Borger Station, but just an overview of who we are in New York State. 900 miles of pipeline, 75 employees, 2 storage facilities, and I'll show you a map coming up after this one. 8 stations, that includes the 2 storage facilities. And I like to tout this every year. Every year, we are measured by our successes in customer satisfaction, which is one of the core values that you saw in the previous slide. And this year, as always, when you saw the pipeline group, Kern River and Eastern Gas Transmission, Carolina Gas Transmission, the 4 BHE pipeline systems are 1, 2, 3, and 4 of all the major pipeline companies in America in customer satisfaction. We've ranked that way for several years. Very proud of it. That just shows the focus of what we do, how we operate, and the pride we put in to delivering a great product safely and reliably and affordably to our customers. And we'll go to the next slide. That's a map of our system in New York State. You can take a closer look at this later on, but you'll see the location of the 6 compressor stations. Not only here at Borger Station, but you see the location of them. And you'll see along the pipeline route there, you'll see these little triangles. And those are receipt points or delivery points. So, here locally with NYSEG, you'll see delivery, those little black triangles in the area of delivery points onto the NYSEG system for local gas distribution customers here in the area. So those are all around the state. I think it's safe to say that burner tips and boilers, nursing homes, hospitals aren't heated without our system being in place. So all across New York State, that's where we are. That's how we operate. And those are the customers all across New York State that rely on natural gas through businesses or homes in our system to deliver it to them and to the companies that end up sending that gas into your homes, the distribution companies. So we'll go to the next slide. I talked about this last year. This is our methane reduction goals. Our goal is 0.05%. We met that years ago. Last year, I think I reported that we were 0.026 in our methane intensity rate. You can see now we're 0.22. So we are going down every year in methane intensity. It's a measure of how much natural gas is released to atmosphere in total of your business. And I think I said it last year, I don't think you're going to find a pipeline group that does better than us on that measurement. We're very, very proud of it. That just shows how much we do to not release gas into the atmosphere. And we've talked about that before, especially what we've done at Borger through the upgrades there, that we now have pressurized hold, meaning, we still notify of blowdowns, but there's really not a whole lot of gas that is going to that blowdown. We use pressurized hold, so when we stop an engine, that gas that's in the engine is held under pressure internally in the engine and used for startup the next time that engine starts. It used to be, before that technology came along, that gas would go and vent up to atmosphere through the blowdown area on the site. Just things that we've done to use proven excellent technologies in how we do business. Secondly, we have a pipeline integrity plan that in the summer months, we replace sections of pipe that, once again, 811. please, when you're about to dig something in your yard. Let's have those lines marked. We run smart pigs through our pipeline system all the time. They'll show us if there's any irregularities on wall thickness of the pipe, coating of the pipe, or of course, outside damage of somebody might be using an auger to try to put a signpost in and hit our line. And so through our pipeline integrity plan, we'll replace sections of line all the time. But then you think, okay, you're replacing that section of line. How much gas is going to atmosphere when you're going to cut that line open and put a new section in? Well, that's where we use a great technology called ZVAC, for example. We'll draw down the pressure of our system. So the gas is flowing without compression, right? No compression. It's just gas is flowing without compression, very minimal rate of pressure. We'll draw that pressure down as low as we can get it. And we'll hook up a machine on a truck called a ZVAC. And that will capture all the gas in that line where the cut is made. So it's not going to atmosphere. We're capturing it in the truck and we can put it back in the system when we're finished. So these are just innovative technologies that we incorporate every day in what we do to drive that methane intensity rate number down as low as we can. Yes, Councilor.
Start using that. I wasn't aware you had that.
The ZVAC machines?
Yeah.
I think about, I've been talking about them now for about 6 years. So I'm thinking about 6. We own several of them and we just move them around the system when they're needed for our integrity program.
So that was prior to the upgrade then you were using.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes. But that's it, you can see from years ago that our goal was 0.05. We met that years ago. We just continue to drive that down using new technologies. And really that's what it's all about, right? In communities that we operate, you want to feel safe with us next door. Our next door neighbors there want to believe and know and understand that we are doing all we can to make quality of life better every year that we operate as we incorporate new technologies. Yeah, we'll go to the next slide. Regulatory integrity, one of our core values. That's just a slide. And excuse me, I've used this deck in other settings. That's why you have all these slides here. It just shows how we're regulated in every state that we operate. We live under regulation. I'm proud to say we've never opposed one regulation that's been proposed. We offer solutions, maybe best practices and ways that we can fine tune a regulation, but we don't oppose regulation. Tell us what the rules are and we'll play by the rules. So those are just a snapshot of how we're regulated in the 10 states that we operate. Community engagement. I think you know this. This shows how we're active in our communities, and the nice little check mark down at the bottom is the recent $30,000 donation to the town of Dryden for your rail trail. And please keep us in mind, for the public that is out there listening, and for those in the room, on our website bhegts.com. Under who we are, you'll find community engagement, and there's an electronic link there to click on to apply online. We meet 4 times a year to discuss the applications we get and fund applications. There's no deadline. There's no timeout period. It's just ongoing year after year pot of money that we are given to make grants under philanthropy to organizations. You all volunteer outside of being an elected official. And people in the audience and people at home, you're all involved in nonprofits or other organizations. Keep that in mind. I see the fire department here. I'm sure they're closely paying attention to that. So, keep that in mind as you're doing things. If you need $5,000, $10,000 to drive a project home, get that last bit of money, keep us in mind for it.
Would you be willing to support the same project twice? Because our rail trail bridge is out to bid now. And we find that a little more money would be helpful. Could we reapply?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Can I ask, and I'm not asking this in a way to sound in any way I don't wanna, I'm not trying to create any friction, but you talked
I
about,
promise I'll literally react.
you talk about, regulations.
Yes.
And there's a lot in the news right now about efforts to roll back regulations. And I know that for a lot of people, that's adding a lot of angst or concern that it could reduce safety or reduce, the trust that has been built with companies, so. Any thought, I mean, are you getting the feeling that that could impact or reduce the amount of safety and precaution that you guys bring to the table?
Great question. Thank you for that. And the answer is no. I'll give you one example. Under the Biden administration, you might have heard of the EPA Good Neighbor Rule. Which went through a court process and it was stayed. We went forward. We are incorporating the Good Neighbor Rule at all of our stations. So we're looking at ways to improve the engines that are at our sites. Spending a lot of money. It's a lot of money to do this, but it's worth it in the end. So that's a good example, good question, where we had a regulation that was in, we knew what the game plan was, we were reacting to it, budgeting money for it, stayed by a court. It's not valid anymore, but we're still proceeding as if it were intact.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're into emissions. And so several of these slides, I think there might be 10 or so, where you're going to see the similar type of bar graph. The tall graph, the tall bar on the left side of that graph is what is known as potential to emit. And that is in air permitting. And that is assuming that every engine at your facility is running 100%, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. So that potential to emit is how we're permitted. So when we do air permitting, our regulators look at that PTE, and that is how we're judged. And if we're going to get a permit or not, if we fall in type 5 or a state facility air permit, you look at that PTE. And as we always say, and we went through this on the SUP before, we're not going to meet that potential of it. We don't operate 365 24 hours a day. That we simply don't do that. We have summer months. You just you don't need compression for that gas to roll through the pipeline in a summer month. The gas is just going, it's flowing, it's doing its thing. We don't need to run a whole lot of engines to make it so. So there you have that. And you'll see that the first year after that is 2021.
Yeah. 21.
And 2021, that's when the 3-4 or the 4-5 in were built or put in service. That was the year of the transition at the facility. And then years 22, 23, and 24, those are the years where the new engines are there, the 2 engines were decommissioned, and everything that you approved in the SUP is now fully in service. So that 1 year, 2021, is the last that engines 2 and 3 were still in service. You can see we're still driving those numbers well below PTE. So that's SOx, bill description on the left-hand margin of what that is. And we go to the next slide and we'll see a different component. Formaldehyde, which comes out of the stack. Again, on the left-hand side, you're going to see a description of what that is. And these descriptions, I believe I pulled these off the EPA website, just a short little snippet to give you an idea of what each component is. So you see those bar graphs. We'll go to the next one. VOCs, volatile organic compounds coming out, and these are measurable. Well below PTE. Go to the next one. Particulate matter. And I believe that the community has particulate matter sensors or monitors around the facility. So I don't see anybody in the audience that's familiar with that, but maybe online. But you can compare our numbers to numbers that are found out here in the field locally who run those air monitors. I'm sure they're quite similar.
Yeah, our friends did that last year. They did it after your visit and found that your data tracked their data. It's affirming.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you can see we're still well under PTE, and I know you're gonna have a question, why does the graph keep increasing with the years? We're gonna get to that in the last slide, but we'll go to the next component. CO2. Again, well below. Go to the next one. Methane, CH4. It's what's in the pipeline quality gas. We'll go to the next one. CO2e. This is the equivalents, and Councilperson Lamb, you were keenly aware of this stat when the SUP was being discussed through public hearings here locally. That was one of the topics that you were questioned on a lot. And a lot of discussion points are around that CO2e, CO2 and methane combined into an equation, and though methane being the most potent of greenhouse gases. And so there's that CO2e number that we discussed in depth during the SUP process. And you can see to alleviate any fears that were out there, we're not close to the PTE. Those numbers that were out there by the public that frightened a lot of people that we were going to admit those numbers with the project because that's in the air permit. And we said, no, we're not going to hit those numbers. Go to the next slide. NOx. This is one of those benefits of engines 5 and 6 being put into service and decommissioning 2 and 3, which the council approved. These are, NOx is close to the ground. This is what affects people living in the community. Not, the greenhouse gas is going to go to atmosphere. Methane is going to go right up to atmosphere and not affect people on the ground level. This is what affects people on the ground level. This is what affects quality of life on a local level, the next 2 slides or 3 slides. So you'll see that we are still driving that low. There's one in particular, 2021, see how CO was up there, right? Decommissioned 2 and 3, put in the latest and greatest new technologies there with engines 5 and 6, and you can see how we've driven those numbers down for a community benefit. And
That's why we approve this.
And next slide, hazardous air pollutants. Again, this is quality of life issues for your constituents and people in the room and those online. This is how, again, the benefits of that project were to improve quality of life in the community. So this clearly shows that we're on the right track, and what we did was the right thing to do for that station. And next one. That's why you see, this is how much gas is being pumped through the station. That's why you see the graphs increasing in 22, 23, and 24. Demand is not decreasing for natural gas in New York State and New England. Simply not. Every year, the demand for natural gas is going up. That's a fact. It shows in the amount of gas that is pumped through the station. There is no reduction in demand of natural gas in the United States. It is increasing year after year after year. And that's why you see the numbers on those graphs inch up because of the amount of gas that is coming through the station. So our customers depend on it. Homes, businesses, nursing homes, hospitals, etc., depend on natural gas for their boilers and their burner tips. And that's not changing anytime soon. So you can see the amount of gas that's going through Bollinger is typical, and these numbers are typical of every station. We have record days. We set another record this February. I talked about it last year of 2024. In that recent February before I was here, we set records, and we set more records this year on flows and turnover of storage. We have storage facilities, how much we're withdrawing and re-putting in storage. We had turnover records this year. The demand for natural gas is not decreasing, and that's why you get the numbers you have. And I believe that's the last slide until we get to one with the QR code. Please follow us on LinkedIn if you want to hear from us. This is the only social media platform that we're on. We're not on Facebook or Twitter. We're only on LinkedIn. So there's your QR code to follow us there. And that's it. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, just a couple. So did you have a slide on HAPs in particular, harmful air?
Yes. So I believe it was 3 slides back. It was one of the last bar graph slides. We can return to that if you want to see it, Ray, if that's possible.
you just pop back to the HAPS one? He said it was 3 back.
There it is.
Okay, total HAPS. All right, so it looks like, you've had a marginal increase, as you mentioned, in the overall gas flow going through here.
Yes.
Does that incremental change broadly track the marginal changes in the other pollutants? So each one of these, we saw a slight increase of whether we're talking about SOx or NOx or HAPS or nitrogen oxide.
Yes, you can see that in the slides. You're seeing it ticking up in 21, 22, 23. All those were ticking upwards. And that tracks with volume of gas through the station, because the turbines are fueled by natural gas. So they run on natural gas. We're allotted through our customers a certain portion of gas to make the engines go, and as part of our tariff. And so they are natural gas fired fuel turbines in the station that rely on that same pipeline quality methane that's in the pipe to run the turbines.
So 1% increase in volume means 1% increase in potential emission.
I'm not
Yeah.
an air expert, but it makes sense to say that, but I wouldn't be able to validate that with.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an air expert.
Just eyeballing it from these bar charts.
Right.
Kind of looks that way. I was just wondering if, since you are good at recovery of fugitive methane, that maybe that would not directly track with the increased volume.
Yeah, it is the fuel. So the turbines are gas turbines, and the fuel is natural gas for the turbines, which
Okay.
makes that
And
understandable.
was 23 warmer than 24, or was it just more? Do you think it was more development?
23 was warmer.
23 was warmer, a warmer year, right?
Well, we are weather dependent in a sense, but we're also demand, the demand for natural gas. Obviously doesn't pace with temperature, right? There's still that great demand for natural gas.
Yeah.
Even though we are, you can track volumes by weather, and of course, February is our busiest month. And what we do in the coldest month, right? We have those, except for Winter Storm Elliott the one year, but we see it all across our system, and we're not the only system that sees it. Our competitors and sometimes partners in the industry see it too. It's gas use is going up, and
Yeah, I was trying to think of what the variables are here, because, we have people leaving upstate New York, and part of me thinks, well, there'll be fewer households and businesses needing gas, but then the other variable is temperature. If it's a colder winter, even though there's fewer people, you're gonna move more gas.
we are.
Something in that scenario.
Yeah, it is demand.
Well, questions from the board?
Thank you for this. I live about a mile away, so I especially appreciate seeing all the stats.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I love coming here and getting this presentation. I'll be back next year doing the same if the company still allows me to do it. And good seeing you all. And you have my email, telephone number, my cell number is right there. The number you have, call me at any time with any questions. Happy to do it. And we still haven't done a recent tour. So summer's coming. It's a great time to go through the station. So
Yeah, I was over for a tour.
Let's do it.
It'd be good
Yeah.
to see the new equipment.
yeah, let's do a walkthrough.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think what you do is, and I just want to say this publicly, you add to transparency here when you do this, and there was a period when we needed that, and you guys listened and doing this, I think builds, confidence and less skepticism or doubt about, what's going on with this big entity. I mean, you are a big entity, as you just showed us.
I
But
appreciate that.
it helps to have a face connected to it, and I think you guys do a good service when you do this. I appreciate you driving up here. We all do.
Thank you. We'll see you next year.
Okay, thanks.
Enjoy the day of sunshine.
All right, how are we doing on time? Can we close this hearing now?
So, yep.
Gonna move to close this hearing unless there's anyone else who's joined that wants to make a statement about Varna Auto. Okay,
So you have a draft resolution, both in the email and stuff on the web.
do you want to put that up?
Yeah, I'll pull that up there.
Have a good trip. You found it?
There you go.
Great.
So it indicates the section of the code that we're applying here, that 5,000 square foot limit on the hamlet of Varna. Acknowledging it's been reviewed at the planning board. The planning board did the seeker and got to a negative declaration. In the resolves, it goes through the criteria for a special use permit, and then in the final resolve, the finding that the applicant's in compliance and you're approving the special use permit. The three conditions that are on it are the first one is to maintain the parcel north of the road and south of the road in the same ownership. And that it will continue to function, the north parcel will continue to function as the parking lot for the auto repair business on the south side of the road. Second condition is just the final site plan approval by the planning board. They've done the initial sketch approvals, and next Thursday night they'll be doing the final site plan approval.
Oh, okay, that was my next question. Just procedurally, we have to do this before they can do that, is that correct?
No, we're just trying to keep the process moving along. As I said, it's going to be seen also by the ZBA, May 6th. So we started the process with the planning board, but then both town board and ZBA have to play a part in this.
And just to clarify, I mean, the way our zoning law is, so much of this has already been scrutinized by the planning board. It's their jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction is really, waiving the 5,000 square foot.
Yep.
Role and whether.
And the board made affirmative action to recommend this to you.
Exactly. And maybe we won't have that 5,000 rule in the revised zoning. Might be something we need to talk about since we've waived it twice in the last year.
Worth discussing.
Makes you wonder if we need it. Not that we don't mind seeing you, but it's a quirk in our zoning law that brought you here. All right. I hear no comments. I certainly don't have any reservations about this. So we've got a resolution before us and it's 2 pages and I'd rather not read the whole thing. We've all looked at it. Be too much of a breach of protocol is just to move that we accept this resolution.
A second.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You have the special use permit. We'll see you next week.
All right, thanks. Have a good night. I would have read the whole thing if you wanted. I've been talking all day. All right, the announcement section. Do we have announcements?
No.
Blessings or concerns?
We talked about how awesome Bambi and Ray are.
Oh,
Awesome Bambi and Ray are. Because you're awesome.
okay. Somebody's in a good mood.
Yeah.
I guess we'll talk about the dog enumeration. I think that we can. Well, we're still on announcements. And I wanted to make sure that we had announced that folks really should respond to the dog enumeration by the 25th. Right? Before the 25th.
Where she finds dogs.
And,
We don't have a lot of new.
that was my next question, but I, and that's not an announcement, so I'm trying to figure out how I slip that in there, but you have announced,
We've had a lot of new dogs.
well, that's the right thing to do.
I've seen things coming through on a few listservs
Yeah.
saying it's coming and letting people know. Be supportive.
All right, well, then I guess we'll keep moving along. We have, I don't see Mr. Makar here, so we'll do, Ray, Planning Department.
Yep, so the planning department monthly updates on the web. The one thing I want to call out is that we finally got our authorization for the from DOT for the Route 13 pedestrian bridge crossing for the rail trail. So that has been advertised. We have a deadline of May 8th. So we'll have a opening here at the town hall at that time and see what the bid prices were. And hopefully we'll get a quick turnaround on the selection of a contractor. If we don't have a lot of evaluation to do, we may be able to turn around a recommendation by the following Thursday, which is the May 15th town board meeting. That would be ideal if we can approve a contract then. If not, it'll be on the June agenda for approval.
They didn't come in yet?
No.
Any inquiries about it?
Yeah, we have had a couple of contractors calling for follow-up questions. Yep.
That's what we want to hear.
And I know that this got answered at the last meeting, but when are we gonna be able to put up a Barn Bridge bid?
It's in the same category, from DOT. We just got cleared to put that, pedestrian bridge out to bid, and DOT has everything they need.
So we're just waiting for permission to post it for bid. Okay,
Yeah,
just. Hoping that if we keep asking, it'll send good energy that the DOT wants.
yeah, occasionally I just send a cranky email to our contact at DOT, and sometimes that actually helps, so.
Mhm.
I'll get around to that tomorrow. Just to check in, temperature check. Bureaucrats love that.
Don't forget about us.
All right, very good. Anything else, Ray?
No,
I don't see David in the car. Did he slip in here? Didn't see him. I told him 6:45. Okay, tell us about that fire.
Okay.
He said, tell us about Dragon Fire.
Giant fire.
Fiber,
Oh, fire.
Oh, giant fire.
Brady Fiber. Wish he was here,
You'll be-
right about Brady Fiber. The deliveries, we're no longer going to accept the deliveries unless we get notified. Because we took deliveries, because people pulled in, when my guys unloaded it. And there were some emails floating around about how we had $100 and some thousand worth of stuff sitting out in the salt shed. It's not my responsibility. I offered to unload stuff for the last couple of years. We've had a lot of issues with it. And from the looking of the emails, they were kind of pointing the finger everywhere that somehow there's $100,000 worth of equipment sitting out in the salt shed, which they ended up returning anyways. So here's your update on the Dragon Fiber.
So I want to make sure I heard you correctly. So you do not want to store any more dried fiber equipment?
No, I'll store it, I'll unload it, they need to call me. That was the agreement to start with. And if you look over the past 2 years. I've gone in on Saturdays, we've been there Friday afternoons, we've been there during. Snowstorms unloading stuff and everything else, when we know about it, we don't mind, but when you show up, we unload it anyways because they're at the shop. And then we find out that it wasn't supposed to be unloaded, that the load was returned. But nobody notified us or told the driver or anybody else, and now we had $100,000 worth of equipment sitting out in the. Salt shed. And if you look at the emails, it looked to me like they were trying to point the finger at us, and. So I told them I will not unload anything else without a phone call.
Well, help me understand what the problem is. The equipment was in the salt shed and that's where.
It was supposed to be. This particular load was supposed to be in a temperature controlled spot.
Okay, all right, so.
So, like I said, we don't know that unless somebody notifies us of number one, the delivery, number two, what it's supposed to be for. And it's really not our responsibility, and we've had several conversations. More than I can tell you, we've had conversations, and some of them have been good, some of them have been bad, but.
This is a part for the course of trucking companies that things show up.
Most of it's great about, they always drop stuff off here.
Yeah.
And they just, they, every time they. It's not so much, it's. Somebody's gotta get control of it, is what the problem is. So.
Yeah, well, David, I'll talk to him as if he gets on here or at our meeting tomorrow.
Okay, while I'm up here, we'll go over like stuff too. Right now, we're just doing some snowplow cleanup. We've done some pipes, ditches, we've started to strip down the trucks. We paint the plows, clean them up and stuff like that. We started some mowing, roadside mowing. We're prepping some of the roads to get paved. We made a little over $100,000 on the last Auctions International with the equipment that we got rid of.
Mhm.
With the stream bank stabilization grant. The bidding for the rest of it is supposed to be going out May 1st. Talked to Donnie today, he told me May 1st. The water and sewer is supposed to go out same time, May 1st. I did talk to him about separating out the material list. Because I think as a municipality. We can get the stuff cheaper, tax-free, all that stuff, and. We'll supply them.
Okay.
We'll see how that works. I went to that water sewer conference yesterday, and there was a lot of them down there that were saying that that's how it should, we should try to. Do it that way, because we'll save a lot of money on it. So we're gonna give it a try. So he's gonna give me the as-built, and we'll just do a pull from that, we'll put it out to bid and see how we can. Save some money. That's all I got.
It's pretty good. Overall this year, was it more salt, less salt?
A lot more.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Like what percentage more?
Usually, I usually keep enough in there so that, because the way the bid runs year to year, I don't know why they do it, and I just had to put it in like last month. But I try to save enough from last year to do the beginning of this year, and then I ordered again for next year. But we probably used about 3,700 ton this year. Usually we're not that high.
Other municipalities ran out, didn't they?
We have all the salt.
A lot of people ran out.
Yeah.
We did loan some, they're supposed to bring it back when they get their shipments, but.
Sell it at a premium.
I tried to tell them that, but Jason wouldn't do it. So,
All right. I don't have any other questions. Great job. Thank you.
oh, I'm also getting bids on stone dust. Cause I heard some rumor, we got some grant money for trail to try to finish some things up.
Yeah,
And we'll pick the order on. Is that true?
Yes, we need to spend our Tompkins County grant money. By the end of May. If that's what you're referring to.
Yes. Is somebody gonna? Who's? Should I talk to Todd Bittner about that, of getting, if that's what we're using it for?
Can
I think
I,
we can talk to Alice Green about that.
There she is.
If anyone knows Alice.
I'm right here.
Oh, there she is.
Hello.
I can't hear you.
Yes,
Alice.
that,
No, we cannot
me?
hear you.
uh,
It's probably our fault. No?
No.
it's, I'm trying to talk. Can you hear me?
She's not muted.
She's muted.
No, she's not.
No, I'm not.
Well, she's somehow muted by our system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they
Oh,
say they can hear her on
Yeah.
Zoom. So
Cassie
that's-
can hear me on Zoom, but you guys can't hear me in the
It's an
room.
us problem.
Um,
Hmm.
Oh, God, now we're gonna do that.
No.
Yeah.
And Jason's on, or we can do some
It
echo.
was my fault. I totally take responsibility for that.
Could you, guys, can,
You
The
say
folks
something,
from-
Alice? Oh, she's talking. Yeah, we can hear her.
you can hear me now? Nope.
Hmm.
Okay. I can check chat.
Now
we can hear you.
You can hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, I would keep on through my speaker.
Okay, so everyone be quiet.
Okay.
What's the deal? Since we don't talk, it's good.
Ooh, it's really sounding funny on Zoom right now. All I wanted to say is the area that we want that Zoned us to be in is the Monkey Run area. And I can talk with you offline, Rick. Okay.
She's gone. Nope. All right, now we're back. Thank you, Alice. If we turned off our microphones, it allows you to speak, so. I don't know if that's in the manual on how to do this, but it worked. All right, moving on to our next agenda item, county briefing. That's gonna be brief. Because they don't love us. No, I know they love us, but must be something else going on.
Was, is there any updates on how it's going with the, I want to call it a piece or car, it's not right, with the emergency response, the flight car, thank you. She understood. With how that's going and have there been more discussions around how it's getting funded?
Well, I mean, I guess generally, because I'm on the TCOG EMS committee, I get reports on the RMR. And overall I asked them, this specific question, how much reduction in ambulance calls are due to the RMR? And they said about 10%.
Okay.
So the fact that the fly cars go out, it reduces the number of calls that Dryden Ambulance or Bangs or T-Bird have to answer, and Groton too, to a certain extent. So it's, it continues to be heavily supported by the county in terms of meeting its objective.
Yeah, 'cause these guys' percentages were up last quite a bit, so I was wondering.
Yeah, the RMR is spending a lot of time in some of the, like in Lansing.
Okay, right. Newfield, what places are they on? Coverage.
Yeah. So, I mean, they do save money,
Has there been any talk of expanding the program?
a lot of time.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's something,
Providing coverage in places like Dryden.
well, and also having dedicated funding. Right now, we're in year 2 of some grant funding that was received from the state. So they received about $1 million total, a grant from Senator Webb, and then that competitive grant that we talked about as well. But going forward, we're gonna need a more dedicated funding stream and really ambulances. I asked for one after a couple of months and got one. I don't know if I talked about this last time, but so I had a chance to sit down with Greg Nizzi, Rich John, Dan Klein.
I think you said you were going to be sitting down.
Yeah, to actually have them.
Okay.
And the county administrator. Kufi, and of course, Kufi and then Mark Whitmer and Gordon Hart, so we're on this TCOG committee. And we actually had a really productive conversation about not studying the issue anymore. Actually come up with a plan to fix this problem that Dryden taxpayers are subsidizing ambulance services. I think we've all heard that, but you know, we're a community member and we're never going to turn down an ambulance call, but at the same time, it's not fair. I think the legislature gets it, and the thing that's really pressing me is that about half the legislature is going to be new in 2026.
Yep.
And I don't want to start this process over, and the others agree, and the county administrator agrees, and so we want to do something this year. So right now, there's a consultant working on a proposal, not a plan, a transition on what to do next. We've studied the heck out of this. And they're doing a in-house proposal as well, so. The county emergency management office is working on their own kind of, you know, benchmark proposal to compare with the consultant's proposal. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Does the hospital have any? They never have, but now that they're merging with another organization, I don't know if there's any talk in them having ambulance service and building that into the business model.
They would have to move some things around to do that in Tompkins County. They currently run ambulances in Schuyler County, so, but they don't in Tompkins County. I believe they'd have to get a CON to operate an ambulance in Tompkins County. And
They have enough on their plate at the moment anyway.
something's going to happen if we don't find a reform model. Either med or whatever, what do they call
I
it?
don't know.
They may move in to that as well. But the one thing's for sure is the current system is not sustainable. And the county, I think, understands it, so there's some thought about county owned and operated ambulances.
Okay, thanks for the county update.
Dave's here.
So,
Dave's here.
hey, David,
Hey, good evening, everyone.
you're not allowed to talk as long as we're talking, and that's not an authoritarian thing. It's a technical problem that we're having. No, I will put the microphone up to my speaker again so we can hear him when he's ready to go live on us.
You can't hear me or you can?
See, we can't hear you
He's
because
ready.
we're talking.
All
So they have to use a microphone and make it come out of Dan's computer.
All right, so we're gonna do this, David. You got your slides ready to share?
Yes.
That was a yes.
Okay, we are going to very noticeably stop talking because we're high tech. And I'm gonna allow you to talk.
All right, good evening. This is the April report for the month of March. And then I have one request for extending a contract. So big month in March. This is the headlines. I'll do a couple slides and then talk about the MIP project. So the first is that we terminated our partnership with our prior engineering firm on February 13th and hired a new firm the same day. They got right to work in town, doing an assessment of what was going on, doing an audit. And their preliminary report on February 28th was that they wanted a 10 to 14 day construction stoppage for a deeper evaluation. As of April 15th, our estimated restart is May 1st, so much longer than 14 days. What they found was there was substantial and widespread issues with the design and construction, the implementation of the design from the previous firm and the construction teams. Thus, since February, we have added no new green zone parcels, and that has slowed down subscriber growth. There are a number of audits underway and continuing, including in the outside plant, the exterior, the handholds and the fiber on the poles, as well as the network, as well as the overall project timeline and schedule and budget and permitting. So Vantage has their arms around a lot of parts of the project, trying to bring it into alignment where it needs to be for us to finish the New York State MIP project on time, and then continue to bring fiber to everyone else. I'll pause for a minute if there's any questions on this. Yeah, I can't read lips, but it sounds like no. All right, the next one is the municipal infrastructure. I guess you could use the chat to talk to me. We can't talk. All right, the municipal infrastructure program update is that we have a GDA. We've had it for about 7 weeks, and we have identified at least 7 locations that we are now challenging with New York State to either not have to bring fiber to those because they're not residential, or that we need more funding to reach those locations outside of the scope of the original project. We're also reviewing the total project budget. It's a $9.9 million project. The grant's for $8.9 million. Our initial assessment of the gaps would make this about an $11.5 million project, where we would ask for about 10.5 million from the state. So we'd ask for another $1.5 million to reach these locations that are missed in the first go around. The rest of the highlights are we are now able to serve 1,700 parcels, almost 30% of the town. A lot of that is in the village of Dryden and village of Freeville, but also throughout town along the ring, the backbone. As of April 1st, 364 customers. We added 38 in March. We had 65 inbound requests. This is February, but I think that was in March. We did have an outage in March. This is kind of old news because we had a meeting right after this, but we did have an outage for just under 2 hours during that windstorm on March 16th. And more recently, on April 3rd, we did some door-to-door business tier sales in the village of Dryden. We visited 25 businesses and found verbal interest from 20 of those. Are those 7 locations residences or groups of residences? I'll answer that in a minute when I go to a couple slides from now. We'll look at that a little deeper. Any other questions you want to chat to me before I go to the next slide? On March 29th, also in the month of March, although it's been a while. No, thanks. It was great to go visit those businesses. A lot of people were very, very happy to see us. The bank right downtown in the village of Dryden, they were like, "This is great. We want to talk to you. The manager's busy right now, but give us your information. We'll follow up with you." We went to one of the businesses, and it was the business owner and one of their customers. And we said, "Hey, we're from Dryden Fiber." And the customer said, "Oh, I use Dryden Fiber at my house." And the business owner was like, "That's all I have to hear." So like the vibes out there, the messages out there. It was a good couple hours walking around and seeing these businesses. We had the Community Connections event back on March 29th. We spoke to about 25 or 30 residents. We estimate public broadband committee members were there to volunteer. It's good to answer questions and get people excited. I didn't see a bump in signups from that, but definitely a lot more visibility for the project and a chance for the broadband committee to be out there and see what else is going on in town. We did, as I mentioned last month, we did remove 35 locations from the network on Baker Hill Road and parts of Mount Pleasant. This directly impacts 2 customers. They have both moved over to Point Broadband, who is the provider who owns the network on parts of Mount Pleasant and on Baker Hill Road. We had inadvertently put splitters on the Point Broadband network. Again, this is from our previous engineering firm that we no longer work with. We are now in the process of removing those splitters. Customers have been moved over to Point, and we're managing, even with that issue, a positive relationship with Point Broadband. We had terminated our first subscriber in the month of March from lack of payment. We turned off their service, and the next day they paid, turned their service back on, then that payment failed, then it was successful, and now their service is currently back on. So we know what process we have to follow for people who lack, who don't make their payment. Right now, I believe our SLA says 60 days, but this person went out to 90 days. We're talking to them, reaching out to them, calling, emailing. That didn't work for the first 90 days. As soon as we turned the service off, they called us right away. So they're back online. The website drydenfiber.com has a new map. This is now hosted with Vantage, our new engineering firm. So lighter colors, it's a little easier to navigate, really shows just a better level of detail. It's on the same type of platform we were using before. So people who are using it are familiar, but the feedback has been really positive about the navigation of the new map on the website. Finally, you'll see it in later parts of this deck. Meeting with Vantage every week. They're helping out with some MDU planning and support. So these are multiple dwelling units, mostly apartment buildings and trailer parks around town, mobile home parks. And then within admin, we are working to hire the admin role that we requested last year that was in the budget. We said we'd do that hire in the spring of 2025. Now it's the spring. So we're working, Amanda has used the civil service description for an existing role. So we have to come up with a new job description. We use that role, it's part-time. And there are already 3 or 4 candidates in the civil service pool that we're gonna look at right away. Hopefully we'll get them seated by May 31st. We're also looking at insurance for the network, and there's some new requirements for reporting from the Department of Labor for part of the MIP grant. And we're working through that part of the process too. Just a lot of little details to receive this $9 million grant. Got to pause again before we go to the next section. Thumbs up from Spring and Dan. That's all I can see is Spring and Dan. All right. Let's talk about goals for the year and then the MIP project. So our goal for this month of March was to be at 364. The 432 customers, we are at 364 customers. Not adding new green zone has impacted our ability to grow as fast as we planned. We do believe with turning on construction on May 1st, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit construction that was, the permitting was done, the electrical make-ready was done, the construction, which is either putting the strand on the poles or putting the fiber on the poles, was done. In some cases, even the splicing of that network was completed, just didn't get to the engineering firm to finish off, do the testing and give it the green light. So there's construction in all those stages across the yellow zone. We're going to move to get everything going, including finishing up some stuff that's almost done. So we should see an increase in parcels, probably by June 30th, if not sooner. And then a big increase because there are a lot of people who've already signed up. I think we're over 1,300 signups so far, all over town. So a lot of those are in the green zone or in the yellow zone that we'll be able to turn into customers as soon as we get that work wrapped up. All right, I want to give you an update on this New York State MIP project. This is a project that we applied for last spring. We applied in March. We went back and forth with New York State in April. They liked what we had designed, which was to reach everything on this map of Dryden, which is the square on the top, that's in the red lines, as well as the purple dots. The project at that point was to reach the western half of the town of Caroline. When we had presented that to New York State, they said, "This is amazing. We like what you're doing. You're already up and running. We would like you to finish Caroline and reach every house in the town of Caroline." And we said, "Well, that will take us more money. And it's only a 2.5-year project." They said, "How much more money do you need to reach that?" And we went back, Hunt Engineering went back. And when they returned, they said, "We need about $3.5 million more." And New York State said, "Great, we'll increase your project from, I believe it was 6.2 million up to 9.9 million. So that was great. We all celebrated. They awarded the grant last June. We had a big press conference, and then we started getting to work with permitting across everywhere where this says proposed network. What we found is we were missing some dots on the map. So we'll talk about this in a couple of different stages. The first is in Dryden, where it's most of the purple dots you'll see are close to the existing network. So we're going to be able to service those unserved and underserved customers or residents, those people who are on dial-up or DSL. We'll be able to service them with our existing network. New York State will help pay for some of the installations to reach those people. And then in the southern half of Dryden on the red lines, these are where there's no planned network at the time of application. We were going to build it eventually, but we rolled those into the application. What we see here is in September of 2024, just about 4 months after we were awarded the grant and about 6 months after we applied, we learned that our method to identify the unserved and underserved in Dryden missed 61 addresses. When will the village of Dryden be completed? I don't know. I hope by June 30th. There's not much left. There's some permitting issues on North Road, North. We're close on the village, probably about 85% covered. So let's go back to these purple dots. These are locations in town where the structures, I believe all the structures are 500 feet or more away from where we were planning on building construction anyway. It's like long driveways mostly. And we're not quite sure, but however Hunt designed this budget, they excluded these 61 addresses because they weren't close enough to the road, even though they are all unserved or underserved, which means they're using either dial-up, DSL. They could be using satellite because this is a terrestrial program. You have to have cable to the home or fiber to the home. Or these are Spectrum customers with a very long driveways, which mean very expensive, prohibitive expensive installations. So it was a bit of a surprise. These were going to be awarded to another ISP to come in and reach these 61 addresses. We went back to New York State and said, these are all in Dryden. We made a mistake in not catching these 61 locations in the first pass. We want these as part of our project. And they said, great. We said, we're going to need more money. They said, no, just use your 10% project contingency to reach these 61 locations. Now in Dryden, that was generally okay because everywhere in the north half of town where there are purple dots, we were planning on reaching those addresses anyway before the end of next year as part of our build. As you've seen the map, the yellow zone, which was supposed to be done by the end of last year, and the purple zone, which was supposed to be done by June 30th. So by reaching what we were planning on reaching, we'll reach all those addresses before the deadline. That then left us with 4 unique dots on the map. And I'll show those here on this third slide in yellow. Each of these is a non-residential structure that is FCC eligible for as underserved or unserved locations. I'll go from left to right. The leftmost one is the picnic pavilion at Cornell's Monkey Run. It's about a 4/10 of a mile driveway, unpaved driveway to get to that building. There's no electricity there. I don't believe there's any other utilities there. It's off Hanshaw Road, which we're not planning on doing as part of our MIP funded project. New York State is actually debating all 4 of these locations to determine if we need to reach them. So that's one of them. It's at the picnic pavilion. If you've been at Monkey Run, you may have seen it. The next one to the east of that is the radio tower on top of Mount Pleasant, which we actually do have fiber on the ring near there. So we could reach that, but we're not planning on going up that long driveway to the building. We hadn't budgeted that. The next one is the garage behind the cemetery on Route 13. near the intersection of Yellow Barn, Big Cemetery. There's a garage way in the back. That structure is listed as an unserved by broadband internet structure. As far as we can tell, there's no utilities to that structure, possibly electricity. It's just a garage. We question if we need to build that as part of this. Now, eventually we are going to cover Route 13 and we would be able to provide service to that building, but it is not close to any of the existing or proposed network for the budget. So to reach that, we would need more funding. The final location in the southeast corner of the town of Dryden is a cell phone tower. It's on top of the hill. You can see it from Livermore Road if you just look straight south from Livermore. Basically, it's a straight shot down. It is probably about a 25-minute hike off of that red line from the south of there, which is, I think that's Hartford Road. It's on a road that I've never heard of as a road in town called Red Man Run Road, which is off of Hammond or off of Canaan. Like, it is not. It's not even a seasonal road. It's like a pathway that the utility company may have used to bring that cell tower in there. So why are buildings that don't have electric? Not really sure. I think from what I can tell, given that we know that the MIP project covers 104,000 locations in New York State, some of it is just done by radar, LiDAR, GPS, like whatever tools, GIS tools, just say, go pick up any structure. There's a few in Caroline that may have been hunting cabins in the past. And at this point, they are like sheds far off the roads, no electricity, no utilities. Yes, great for cost reduction. It's a good hike, but we do not have any plan to bring fiber onto Red Man Run Road. It would probably be a few $100,000 to reach that. And it would be for the benefit of a cellular telephone company, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, all on our dime, with the taxpayers' dime. I'm not really even sure how that cell tower, maybe they have equipment up there. So those 4 in the town would be expensive to reach if we had to reach them. They're not in our plan. We've asked to remove those 4 locations from the request. That was a few weeks ago. We've reiterated that in the last couple of calls. So we're working through that. In Caroline, which is part of the project, we identified 106 locations that are not close to the red line, the proposed network. We identified these about a month ago. So since then, Vantage and I have gone to some of these locations in person. We've looked at what's there for utilities, for telephone poles, underground, seasonal roads. We are not sure at all why Hunt did not include proposed network to reach these blue dots all over Caroline. We can't figure it out. But we do know that to reach these, it would be about $1.05 million to bring Strand in to the driveways for each of these blue dots, the smaller blue dots throughout the town of Caroline. New York State now has that information, and they're working to determine if we'll get more funding to reach them, or if they'll remove them from the plan, or if it becomes a phase 2. We do know they are still taking applications for municipal infrastructure program grants. I think it'd be round 4. They haven't awarded anything in 4 or 5 months. So we think there's still money there. We would have to go back all the way up to like last September's approval from Empire State Development if they did increase the budget. But right now, we would not be able to afford to reach these 106 locations that are in the small blue circles. I'll pause for a second before I talk about the big circles. Okay, the last thing is those 3 big circles at the bottom of the town of Caroline on the town line with the town of Candor. One of them is on Braley Hill Road. The other two are on Melnick Road. These are roads and addresses that I did not know existed, and I live in South Carolina. They're far off, like the normal driving areas. The single one on Braley Hill Road, you have to go through Shindagan State Park to reach that address. The other ones, you have to leave the county to reach Melnick Road. You have to come south out of Speedsville and then go back north to enter to reach those two. To service those three addresses, the estimate is about $500,000. And for the one on the left, that's if we can get permission to do an underground run along, yeah, that's an additional 1 million to reach the other 106. So it's 106 locations for about $1 million, and then 3 more locations for $500,000. And that's because there's a long underground run, basically from the blue circle straight north is Braley Hill Road through Shindagan Hollow. There's no utilities there. There's no telephone poles. We'd have to do a 3-mile underground run through the state forest, which we're not even sure if we would be allowed to do that. But if we were, that's the shortest way to bring them fiber. The other option is to come in from the south, which would be leaving where these two roads come together. This is Connington Road and White Church Road, running fiber south to Wilseyville, down 96B, north on Prospect Hill, and then back to this big blue circle. That is alone, that was about a $440,000 8-mile run. The Melnick Road one on the right side does pass some other houses when you leave Speedsville heading south into Tioga County, and then west through the town of Candor, and then back up into Melnick Road to reach that. So we are unable to sign the grant disbursement agreement with New York State because as of today, with the budget they provided, this $9.9 million budget, we would not have enough money to reach all the locations that are in the agreement. We would run out of money. So we're waiting for them to tell us what we should do. Once we have information, we can make a decision to go forward or be creative and move to get the GDA signed. And as soon as we do, we'll be submitting our first reimbursement. This is a reimbursable grant, which means we have to spend all the money. We have to get all the work requested, get all the work completed, get all the invoices, pay all the invoices, and then collect all the invoices to bring them to New York State with a number of other milestone achievements to get our payments through 4 different phases. So we haven't even submitted for the first reimbursement yet due to the length of time of negotiating this GDA, the grant disbursement agreement. Okay, is that addition to 1 million? Yes, seems like it would be less expensive. There is no MIP project in town of Candor in Tioga County. There could be. It would be an additional partnership if we partnered with the town of Candor to bring the fiber through Candor to reach these locations. If they're even interested. They did not apply for MIP funding that we know of in the last year. We have a meeting with Southern Tier Networks. They actually they do own an MIP project. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but just to the left of the town of Caroline is a pocket of Danby that has that is either unserved or underserved. These are reached by Southern Tier Networks. We believe they might have network into 96B in Wilseyville. We could perhaps sell off these 3 locations to Southern Tier Networks for them to reach. So we'll be communicating with them about that next week. So it's the 4 yellow circles, 3 bottom doing it. We are asking them to drop the 4 yellow circles, yes. We are asking them to fund the little blue circles. That's about $1 million. Then we're asking them what to do. We do know that the resident at 610 Braley Hill Road is an active resident. They're a Caroline taxpayer. They live in the town for a project that is designed to reach 100% of the unserved and underserved homes in the town of Caroline. that address qualifies, it's one of the addresses. If we were to not do it, then we would not have achieved the project, which would mean we probably could get through the first 3 reimbursement payments. About $2.25 million each. With the last $2.25 million, they would say, well, we're not going to give it to you since you didn't reach every parcel. It's if I go back a slide, these dots were missed by everyone. The team from Caroline that knows where all these houses are, Hunt that put this together, our team within Dryden Fiber Public Broadband. We looked at these dots that we trust that Hunt has a way to provide service to all these customers on this budget. They did the design, they put together the budget, we trusted them. But in this pause and reevaluate everything with Vantage, we're like, wait a minute, some of these purple dots are not near the red lines. What is the plan? And as we looked through everything we received from our prior engineering firm, we learned that there was no plan. So now we have to make this plan. Otherwise, we'll get squeezed by being unable to fulfill the grant disbursement agreement. Can't hear you, but if you want to type or just take me off speaker, you can. Whatever you have to do so you guys can talk.
We can talk now. So, I think this is what happens when government leaders come up with programs that sound good, to say we're gonna hit 100%. And then you get into the practical implementation stage and you realize that, there has to be a practical adjustment. And if you're spending $500,000 of taxpayer dollars to serve one household, be cheaper just to cut them $100 a month check not to have service. To be ironic here,
Well,
but there has to be another alternative in some cases.
I get that Tioga County isn't moving to have a program like this, but I think it's I used to live in that area. It's more tied to Tioga County side than the Tompkins side. If you're in on that border, and I think that may be part of it.
And then my question, David, I don't know if you saw it, but I had a question about, do these locations even know, or are they interested in the service? Is there a disappointment factor here, or is there just we think they might want it, but maybe there's no circumstance where they do want it?
This is
Dave, you can talk now. I'm gonna mute us so you can talk, but if you wouldn't mind answering that question.
Yeah, I think Springs said. So all utilities for these 3 houses are fed through Tioga County. There are electricity, telephone lines, there's neighbors. They just happen to be at the very edge of town. And for, I would imagine, with the exception of possibly trash removal, all other benefits are coming via Tioga County. There's probably some partnership deal with Caroline to do snow plowing on this inch of Braley Hill Road where this resident is, or even this segment of Melnick Road, which is in the town of Caroline, but you have to go through Tioga County to reach there. We have not reached out to every single one of these. We haven't reached out to all these people to find out if they're interested in service. At some point, they're going to sell their house and someone else is going to buy their house. And they're going to wonder why everyone else has service if they're in this magical grant to provide service. They might not want it. The day I drove by the dot on Braley Hill Road, someone had been there. The mailbox flag was up. People lived there. It's hard to believe that there are many people who would not desire to have fiber optic broadband internet, even though we don't have 100% penetration within our existing green zone, especially in these places that are unserved or underserved. Our estimates were that 80% of the residents who are on dial-up or DSL would switch to a fiber service, especially one at $45 a month. It's just very affordable, very fast. This by the bottom line, like this is.
You need to know that there's a practical obstacle in the delivery of the service, and it's more of a them problem than an us problem, because, you know, they have this unreachable expectation. And like I said, it probably sounded good when somebody came up with it, but in practicality, it creates a budget buster.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitionally, this is rural broadband. This is rural electrification from 1930 to 1960. Like, to reach those houses out there, the government invested a lot of money to reach them. And the decision is, do we want to do that? Now, this question from spring about going to Tioga County and town of Candor, there are houses. It's pretty sparse from where this point at Connington Road and the White Church meet down to Wilseyville. There's a couple of houses, a lot of farmland. I think there's some mining operation there. Wilseyville is a little pocket of houses. There's a few more, but not many on 96. There's a bunch on Prospect Hill, but like maybe a couple dozen. Definitely wouldn't pay for itself. If we were going to go that direction, we may as well run that 8-mile run, but also run like another 2 miles down and service the village of Candor, or that more densely populated area of Candor where the churches and the gas stations and the high school is. That would make it worth this 8-mile run, is to do another couple miles and just wire up all of that downtown area of Candor. We haven't applied for that funding. We haven't proposed that to the town of Candor. This could easily become a slippery slope of getting one more municipality, one more house, and going to many other directions besides this. If they said, we don't have to do these 3, this is a phase 2, and Dryden Fiber comes back and says, well, we'll build to these locations through a project with the town of Candor in 2026 or 2027, that could be feasible, but that's the conversation we haven't even had with New York State yet. It does, I'll say one last thing. It does make the most sense to reach these 3 locations via Candor, especially the one on Braley Hill Road. It does not make any sense to run 3 miles of fiber through the state forest to reach one house and terminate the network there at the town line.
All right, thanks. I think that's a point that we've got to discuss and get some, assessment from CAO about, because you can't bust a project over an intention like that when it would be much more economical and efficient to come up from Candor or to go down to Candor and to benefit from that density. But this is a problem I think we had in the back of our minds when this whole project started, like, internet service does not necessarily follow municipal boundaries.
No.
Yes, totally. I mean, there's parts of our version of this are the 2 parcels in Hammond Hill State Forest down here. This is a very expensive run down Irish settlement when you come off onto Hammond Hill to reach this. It's half a mile to get up to the top of the hill where those homes are, where those businesses are. That's $100,000 to reach 2 houses. If we're doing a $45,000 per mile for aerial or $75,000 a mile for underground, it could be $100,000 to reach those 2. They're pretty far down that road off of Irish settlement. But by nature of reaching everyone, that was part of the plan, is to build it there.
Do you have anything else, or?
Yeah, so the other thing I sent you earlier today, an agreement to extend our backhaul provider partnership with First Light. So the request is recommending signing a renegotiated agreement with First Light. They are one of our 3 backhaul providers for Dryden Fiber. The current agreement with them is a 60-month agreement at $5,785 per month, almost $5,800 per month. The renegotiated fee or the negotiated fee from this week is bringing that from $57,800 down to $3,000, so almost 50% cheaper per month. And this new fee would run for the remainder of that 60-month term, which is the next 42 months. Giving us this total time of agreement of 60 months. We're 18 months into the 60-month agreement. There's a lot of background on there about why we're asking for this and why we decided to renegotiate versus terminating a relationship with them. Any questions about this, or I can go deeper?
Yeah, we have this information. Did you want us, how soon do you need this approved? Is this something you're looking for us to approve tonight?
If you can, the motions that happen is we put the new service in, the Cogent service, in March. We tested it. At the beginning of April, we reached out to First Light to terminate our agreement with them. And they said, great, we'll schedule your termination for May 1st. We won't provide any more service to you at that point. By the way, buried within the service level agreement is an early cancellation fee of 50% of your monthly bill for the remainder of the term, which we didn't see, the town attorney didn't see, Phillips Lytle, the broadband attorneys didn't see. It was quite buried where it's linked off their document into their website that has the SLA. Is it possible they updated their terms and agreement since we're not really sure, but we do know that the current terms and conditions, as it says in the bottom half of the document I shared, says that we would have to pay 50% of the monthly recurring charge if we terminate early. It was a big surprise, given that the body of the agreement says you could terminate at any time with a 30-day notice, which we did. So if we don't decide to authorize Jason to sign the renegotiated agreement, they will turn off the service on May 1st and charge us 50% of the $5,800 a month for the next 42 months.
And we get no value for that.
No, but for about the same amount of money, we would get service for the next 42 months. And talking to Scott Brennan from Netegrity, we are making use of all three connections right now. The system is set up to use each individual internet request to go through our server and pick which of the three backhaul providers is the fastest for that request. So as you're at home and you're a customer of Dryden Fiber, you're getting three different pathways to the internet, depending on where the servers are that you're trying to hit to watch streaming videos or do a Zoom call like this. The server is constantly looking at what's the fastest, best way to get you connected there, and it's using all three networks. We eventually are going to be at a size where it makes sense to have three connections, and this just gives us that sooner, and it's already giving us just an extra connection if anything happens to any of the connections. We now have two backups. So it makes the whole network a little bit more rock solid. It's costing us about what it was costing us 6 months ago just to have two, but now we have three for the same price what we were paying in December.
I think you made the justification, and I move that we vote to authorize Jason to sign this agreement.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay,
That's all I had. Tomorrow morning is the Public Broadband Committee meeting from 10:30 to 11:30. And then next Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, Vantage's project manager for the project will be here from South Dakota to just be on site, tour the town, meet in person with Amanda and me on Monday. I'll be looking at all these weird, unique places that we've identified throughout the town of Dryden, Caroline. looking at some of the mobile home parks, looking at some of the apartment buildings, just to get like a real saturation in person of what was going on, so we can ramp things back up and continue moving forward at the pace we were at prior to this year. So that's, if you're around on Tuesday, and you want to meet with the Vantage people in person, just let me know. We can schedule some time to be at town hall. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Good report.
Yep.
See you tomorrow. All right, well, that kind of worked. I think you might go back out. And takes us to the next point on our agenda. Authorize town supervisor to sign dog enumeration contract.
Let's do that.
Okay, so I think I told you in the email, Retta's proposal was $2.30 per dog. So that's dog, not licensed or unlicensed, just how many dogs we have. And 70 cents a mile. It calls for a start date of April 25, and she proposes to have it done by October 1st.
It's fantastic.
Okay. 30 cents a mile is what it is these days. I heard just today. All right, I move that we authorize Jason to sign that.
Second.
On the first order, it's not that.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Next item is accepting the resignation of Miss Alice Green.
Do we have to accept the resignation or?
No, we can reject it. We can move to make her work twice as hard for half the money.
Which is 0.
But she's been fantastic as the climate smart coordinator, and it looks like Gina Cassidy is willing to step into the position, so. I am. Alice, did you want to speak on this? Is there anything that else that we should know? Okay, doesn't sound like it, but it sounds like something that we just do. I don't think we debate it. I move that we accept this and appoint Gina.
I'll second.
On the first order, it's not that.
Yes.
The Gardner yes. Yes.
Yes. All right, and this next item is one that a number of us have seen emails on, having to do with the Greenville Housing Pilot Agreement. Ray, are you in a position to talk on this at all? Maybe not.
I don't have the full details on it. I mean, I know this is something that's been looked at for over a year now, to replace a old agreement that the village used to have, but then when they were the lead on this pilot. And now apparently the town is taking over lead of negotiating this pilot agreement.
That is correct, and my last review on this is that they were asking for rates that would allow them to function. They wanted a break on the pilot agreement.
Yeah.
In order to provide this housing, and since we are very interested in being pro-housing, that we were going to set the rates as they were negotiated between Jason and Nate and with some CC of the rest of us.
Mhm.
Does anyone else have a feeling on this issue? I know that Jason, he's satisfied with it,
I feel like we've been
and
going over this over and over again.
yeah,
It's time.
he wanted this on the agenda, and I think it's kind of procedural that we approve it. So I move that we go ahead and accept this amendment to the Freeville Housing Pilot Agreement.
Second.
On the first order, it's not that.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. And then this last item is introduction of the 2050 Dryden Road SUP. What? Why is that on there?
That's a different one.
Yeah, so it's,
It's a different automotive garage. We just did that.
Yeah.
this application, it's been before the planning board, and they are going to continue to review it. The purpose of introducing it to the town board tonight is that we can schedule a public hearing for the May meeting.
Okay, All right, that's,
So this is an auto garage in the back of the cemetery in one of the lots that is currently contains one of the solar, large scale solar facilities. So this is a 2 acre sublease of one of those lots. And we have the owner of the business here, right?
oh, is that right?
Um,
Oh, welcome.
I don't know if you want to speak anything about the project or your application.
Just notified about 4 hours ago, so I'm not prepared to speak, but I'm
Okay.
happy to answer any questions.
Okay.
Are you the sole proprietor?
I am,
Okay. And this is a new business, I take it?
new business in Dryden, yes, 6 years in Portland and additional 5 or 6 in Chillingsburg.
Oh, terrific. So this is a franchise, or is it you just have your own? Okay. Pardon me, but do you own this? Do you own that land?
Now it's
Okay,
leased it from Ron.
Ron Samansky is the new owner of that entire property that used to be owned by Penny.
okay.
All
You
the-
would lease it from Ron Zemansky to put your garage there. That's great. What type of auto repair?
Specifically German vehicles, Euro auto repair.
Should have led with that.
There's a lot of garages in the neighborhood, so I'm more focused on the European side.
Do you have a card?
Do I have a card? Oh, a card?
A card.
Dan drives a lot of old cars.
A lot of German cars, so we should talk, but this isn't about me. But
This,
that sounds great to me, so, all right.
So what time are we gonna schedule it for?
I believe there's another, the flood damage prevention law is on, so I would say the May 15th meeting at 6:15 for this one.
6:15.
So we can-
We'll have lots of questions. That's the one we'll have lots of questions.
okay,
For
yeah,
him,
like I said, I was just notified about this 4 hours ago, so I
great.
to listen,
So what's your name?
I mean,
Emil?
yeah,
And do you live in Portland or do you?
I live here in Lake Road Drive.
Oh, terrific. Good to meet you, Emil. And what's the name of the company?
Beeline Garage.
Speedway Garage.
Man, where is that located?
Currently 2150 Drive Road.
Air cooled cars, you work on those?
Fortress,
Maybe.
somewhat, yeah.
All right. All right, so we are going to have a hearing open between now and next month. Is that
No, we'll open the hearing on May 15th at 6:15 PM.
Okay.
And in next Thursday night's meeting at the planning board, we'll continue review of the site plan of this.
Okay, and then we'll we'll open and close it on May 15th.
Yep, that's the
Presumably.
potential.
Yeah, okay. Does that make sense, Emil?
Yes, can you repeat the time?
6:15 on May 15th.
All right, thanks for coming tonight. You can stay for the rest, but I think it's. Bambi, she says you're gonna be bored. I doubt that, because up next, we're gonna talk about affordable housing. Do you have anything you want to add, or? Did you
No.
say? Anything in particular on advisory board updates?
I don't have anything particular.
Terrific.
There is no action there. It's
Gotcha.
fine.
Anything spring that you want to share about conservation?
Okay, so for conservation board, just meeting updates, the Bob Beck Memorial Tree Planting at the OD Von Elgin location will take place in the fall, and they're working with Amanda to collect donated funds for this through the rail trail.
Oh, terrific.
And then there was a really great brainstorm session on working on putting together newsletter information so we can have pop outs of conservation information and things like that for people in each month's newsletter.
Wonderful. Climate Smart,
So with the grant money, we've, the electric truck that we ordered has been delivered. The van and SUV are on the way, and Gina Cassidy was able to save a couple $1,000s by putting them out for a competitive bid process. And then the DPW office upgrade is completed, so the town submitted the $100,000 reimbursement. And an EV charging station will be ordered soon. Alice is going to send out a press release detailing all of the work that's been completed recently. And we submitted all the paperwork for the silver certification. Oh, also there's a, I forgot to look at it, but I guess in the lobby, there's the display case out there, and Alice, Gina and Jerry from CCE Tompkins put together a nice little display about the geothermal and solar programs here in the town.
oh, very good.
Yeah.
Good to know.
To go look at that.
Thanks for doing that. Alice, you worked on that? Alice is still here. That's all right. Okay, next up is a planning board. I can just say that I was at the rewrite zoning advisory board meeting and then had a pretty robust participation. Glad to see us refining what our scope is for the contract with our consultant. And it looks like we're really honing in on that. Just completed that and with a lot of good input. But Spring, you were at the last planning board meeting, correct?
Yes, and reviewing a series of applications. I'm new to this board, so but it was really wonderful to see all the different businesses and things going in the community. Interesting point of note that came up though around solar sites was a need to have a water source at them, because since we have goats taking care of the lawns, we need a way to provide water to said goats. So interesting point of note for the zoning rewrite.
Okay,
Other than that, I think everything is covered already, unless you want to talk site by site for who's submitting applications.
now, Alice, the next item on our agenda is the rail trail. Would you like to talk about the bridge notice, or do you want me to?
Well, if I talk, it's gonna mess things up. Is that right? You have.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead? I'm not saying anything yet. Can you hear me now? Okay. Let's see, I think, Dan, you mentioned this earlier. We did get the go-ahead from the New York State Department of Transportation to submit bids for construction of the bridge over Route 13. And the bid opening is May 8th. And we're hoping, as you said, that the bids come in lower than the estimate.
Okay, thank you all, so we don't feedback, but that's exciting, and we'll be doing a press release on that as well to let the public know that progress is happening with this bridge. It's a milestone. And that means that we can solicit potential contractors and review them, and hopefully they'll come in below budget.
Good.
That's the hope. I did submit a grant application to Assemblywoman Kellis's office for $500,000. Her office said, do it, and so I did. And we'll see what happens. And the New York State budget is still being resolved. It usually is passed by now, but they're pressing ahead, and maybe somehow it will find funding. I'm not going to hold my breath, but stranger things have happened in this state, and a community like ours winning a nice grant. So that's something that we keep open for, and I think that's about it from the rail trail then. And the last two are lifer items, and lifer is not here. So without further delay, citizens privilege, and we want to thank all the citizens for joining us here tonight. Is that you, Mr. Bell? more than a citizen.
Just here to give my report. So calls for March was 38. 12 of those were EMS related. Average personnel 7, out the door 3 minutes 14 seconds, on scene in 7 minutes 7 seconds.
38 calls in March,
Yes,
and how many were EMS?
12.
12 EMS, so.
It seems like a lower percentage than usual.
What's that?
It seems like a lower percentage than usual.
It is. And I'm not.
Okay.
April is, I think it's been. No, it's really quiet.
Was that event, the community event, good for recruitment by any chance?
Amanda, did we get 4 applicants from the connections?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we got 4, they're already all in and have been all granted membership with except of 1. That was the 5th one that we handed out, but I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
So, no, we felt that was worthwhile and worth the investment. We handed out 2 or 3 more applications. Hopefully they will eventually, find their way back. We have Recruit New York next weekend, the 26th. 11 to 2. Again, I told the village board this last night. We've got 2 bounce houses, so if you guys would like to come. Burn off some steam, do a little bouncing. Sign a little waiver, and we'll love to have you.
This is a recruitment event on what day?
Saturday, the 26th. It's a statewide thing that FASNY does. It's a 2-day, you can either do Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday or Sunday. We found that we get better attendance on a Saturday than we do a Sunday for this one.
Do you ever email Cassie, our the woman who runs our newsletter?
I know Cassie.
Yeah, so maybe send her a note on that.
How long does it update all the time? Is that like a website?
Did we miss it already?
Goes out once a month to as an email to people.
So, yeah, I will keep that in mind.
I thought you said it was May.
No, sorry, next week.
Next,
Saturday.
okay.
Can you guys hear me? Did you get any applicants from other former town fire departments?
No,
Not a single one? Oh,
no,
okay.
so. You guys are all set?
Does anyone know what was going on in Freeville today?
Yeah, so that's one thing I wanted to kind of close with. It came as a smoke condition. And it's the first place on the right when you turn on Main Street. And they're fortunate that the resident that called it in was home, because normally he goes to work at 5:30 in the morning. Nobody else was in the building. And he happened to smell it. Actually was a fire that got into the wall, but luckily it didn't officially break out into open flame until we had actually got there. So I would dare say probably less than 100 gallons of water was used. And it was controlled, and that was more smoke related but that building's been cut up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So it was just trying to find, a way to ventilate it, because all the windows on the backside are non-functioning. They're not meant to open up. So we had no way to get air into it.
Yeah.
To move the air and the smoke back out, but. Freeville did a great job with their, automated mutual aid.
Yeah.
All that works. I think it was Dryden, Groton, Freeville, McLean and Groton. So,
And it was, you think electrical or?
it was apparently believed to be a candle that was left on top of a stove.
Candle on top of stuff.
So,
And Cassie did get the Recruit NY information in the newsletter.
Oh,
it's perfect.
of course she did.
Mhm.
Cassie, you do a fabulous job with that.
So, no, so they had an amazing stop today, and it was a huge win, because if that resident wasn't home, it would have been a different situation for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for being there.
Yeah, so. There was a good turnout. I mean,
Yeah, I was impressed, and they were directing traffic well, so I got redirected and.
yeah. It's nice when all the pieces come together in the middle of the day.
Mhm.
So,
Where the old restaurant was.
yes, yep, there was a water
Water wheel.
wheel, something like that, Milan's.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you must be tired.
Not bad.
Yeah, we should let him go home.
It's been very interesting, informative meeting.
All right. Well, thank you for this report and for your work. With that, I think we adjourn this meeting. Do we have to vote on that?
Yeah.
Good night, everyone online.
Mhm.